Hi, I'm Mary Kinlock, and today I'm working on weeping hibiscus tree and also the hibiscus bush. I'll show you. Now, for the tree, I painted the sheets of leaves and popped them out and put them on my craft foam. You can shape them, push them with a ball stylus to give them a little dimension. And then use white glue only, and the leaves on this tree tend to go in like threes, um, but there really is not a real set pattern as to how these leaves grow. So as you can see what I'm doing, I'm starting with the tiny leaves. Then I'm going to the larger leaves. Now, occasionally some of these leaves may droop, and you'll be wishing that you were using the Zap-A-Gap, but I'm in a minute going to show you why you don't want to do that. So, anyway, you keep placing leaves real close together. Okay, so you keep doing this until you get a length about like that. Now, what I do is I vary the lengths. Some I'll make like that long, some this long, so don't try to make them all exactly the same. Now, here's what I'm going to show you that I do, that if you use Zap-A-Gap, these leaves would just start popping off. Okay, so I take all my branches that I've made and I stick my tweezers in and I just start bending, 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 bending. Before I do this, a lot of times I touch up the glue joints, take some green paint and just paint lightly around where your glue joints are. Otherwise, when you look at the tree in the light, it will have shiny spots, which is not a very good look. Okay, so I've got all my branches kind of wiggled up here. Move that out of the way. Okay, so I've got about 12 branches here, and as you can see, with the white glue only, I can handle them pretty good. Occasionally one will fall off and it's like, oops. But this is the time, by handling them like this, that you will know which ones need to be fixed. Okay, now, so what I'm going to do is, as I'm grouping them together, I'm going to start putting little twos together, start making the shape of a tree. Now, this hibiscus is called a weeping hibiscus, so the branches weep like a willow tree. One of the things about this plant grows in Florida, and it only comes in 3 colors: white, pink, and red. So if you make a yellow one, that's going to be a fantasy tree because they don't grow in yellow. there is a Japanese lantern hibiscus that has pretty much the same type of leaves, and at some point maybe I'll do one of those. The flowers hang upside down, kind of like a fuchsia. Okay, now what I'm going to try to do here is get this last branch. Is find the shape of my tree. Okay, like put 3 branches together, some maybe 2, and some higher than others. Okay. May not be exactly what you have in mind, but as we get going here, you'll see how it will change. Now I'm going to put a clamp on the tree, and I am going to use white glue. And I'm going to puddle out a good amount of it. And for this part, I use a toothpick and start scooping up the white glue. You start to see more of a tree shape once you start getting some of these wires covered. Okay. And this is not a very tall tree. It's more of a tree that would be on a patio in a pot, close to a house. It's, you know, a pretty landscape plant. Okay, now we've got the white glue. Now I'll be able to rearrange these a little bit. And this I'm going to just hang over the side of the table to let it dry. Here's one that was drying overnight, and it's already glued together. So my next step is modeling paste. I use modeling paste or gel medium. They're both very similar. The modeling paste is thicker, and so for the tree trunk you don't have to put 2 layers on. You can just do it with 1 if you use this thick modeling paste. And like the gel medium, I get little paint containers and I mix it with an acrylic paint. Now the base that I use for tree trunks, and it's up to you, you don't have to use the same color, is kind of a light tan. Okay, now I'm going to take a fairly good sized brush, and I'm going to not paint like I'm painting, because that's not going to make any big difference. I'm going to just lay the modeling paste on where I have these branches. And try not to get any on your leaves. This, like the gel medium, will also shrink a little bit as it dries. So if it looks kind of big and bulky at this point, don't worry about it because it will shrink a little. Now, a tree like this does not have bark like you would think of as like an oak tree. It's really more of a smooth bark, and okay. This is just a first step here. I'm going to lay this on, and this is going to have to sit overnight. So I'll do another video and show you how I end this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this like I did the others and let it dry overnight. Then tomorrow, when it's dry, I am going to kind of smush it and give it a little bit more natural shape. The modeling paste is flexible, so even if it does crack, it's going to make some natural looking crevices in your tree trunk. And then the last step that I do is I use Model Railroad weathering powders. And I paint the weathering powders on until I get colors that I like, because the weathering powders, you can use grays and browns and mix them all together, and because they're chalky powders, they blend and it starts giving it more of a natural look. Okay, so here is my hibiscus bush. And from past videos, I believe I've shown you how I do stems with the sugar flower wire. I paint the wire, cut it in little pieces, do white glue Zap-A-Gap, and put it on the wires. This is 24 gauge wire, so that it's, you know, a little sturdier than just 20 or 30 gauge wire. Then I paint and vein all the leaves. Use white glue. Well, first thing, remember how I've always say that the white glue Zap-A-Gap makes a brittle bond and things will fall off. So when I put all the stems on these wires, I go over them with a mixture of white glue and a little couple of drops of water. Paint the stems and then let that dry, and then paint over the glue, because otherwise it would be real shiny in there, and then I start putting the leaves on one at a time. You just touch a little bit of white glue and set your leaf on. Then the trunk, I've taken all of them, pulled them together like I did the weeping hibiscus tree, and made the tree trunk the same way. Now, then I've done the weathering powders and then sprayed it with a sealer. Okay? Now, a weeping hibiscus tree, the flower is smaller than a bush, so if you put these on it really is not right. But these flowers that I did before for the hibiscus tree they're a little smaller and they tend to sit upright on the branch. Here's one that I just put the yellow pollen in, and that's a real easy thing. I had, if you look at the video on making the hibiscus flower, for the bush I have now the laser cut, and you make it pretty much the same way. It's only it's bigger, and then when you get to the stamen, this is where you paint the center, touch the tip of the stamen with the white glue, and then dip it in this yellow crushed foam. Now for the bigger flower, instead of the thread, I use a white 30 gauge wire. I don't try to put that wire on first. I make the flower and then make a bunch of little stamens with the yellow on them, and then white glue Zap-A-Gap and stick them in the center. So there's your weeping hibiscus and hibiscus bush. If you have any questions, you can always contact me on my Facebook group, Making Doll's House Flowers in All Scales.